What is a great man? It is an English knight willing to risk his life to save a lady's honor. It's the men on the Titanic shouting, "Women and children first," when there weren't enough lifeboats. It's those who lined up at the draft office because our nation came under attack at Pearl Harbor. It's the first responders rushing toward the Twin Towers on 9/11 to rescue survivors. They weren't necessarily specially talented men, but they were men who answered the call. Men who showed up when they were needed. That's what makes a great man. That which makes a great man also makes a great father. He is the man who answers the call, the man who shows up because he is needed. He is the man who is there for his children, with his children. He loves their mother, and he loves them. And he spends time with his family. That is a great man and a great father. A great father takes his son to the hardware store. He takes his daughter to work with him and on shopping trips with him to the grocery store and on bicycle rides. He teaches his children about power tools. He helps his daughter with hairstyles. That's putting her hair in a bun, in case you didn't recognize that. He provides his son the choicest of foods. He laughs with his children and is willing to be laughed at in order to bring happiness into their lives. In the 9th chapter of Mark's Gospel, we will read the story of a great father. It's interesting because nothing noteworthy is mentioned about him in the text. In fact, he's not even named. And we have to discover his greatness by reading between the lines. But isn't that where dads often live? Between the lines, in the background. Always there, lending support. The son in this story had epileptic seizures. He was a deaf mute. The Bible says he was demon-possessed. And his father cared for him in his need. Let's read the story of this father and son in their encounter with Jesus in Mark 9, beginning in verse 17. A man in the crowd said, "Teacher, I brought you my son who is possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not." "You unbelieving generation," Jesus replied, "how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy to me." So they brought him. When the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately threw the boy into a convulsion. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. Jesus asked the boy's father, "How long has he been like this?" "From childhood," he answered. "It has often thrown him into fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." "If you can?" said Jesus. "Everything is possible for one who believes." Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." When Jesus saw that a crowd was running to the scene, he rebuked the impure spirit. "You deaf and mute spirit," he said, "I command you, come out of him and never enter him again." The spirit shrieked, convulsed him violently, and came out. The boy looked so much like a corpse that many said, "He's dead." But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him to his feet, and he stood up. Reading between the lines, we understand that this man was a great father. And we learned, as a result of his example, that a great father supports his child. He stays through the tough times. This boy's condition was extremely serious, often dangerous to him. His condition was likely a constant source of stress for his parents, for stress levels spike in the families of chronically ill children and sometimes put severe strain on the marriage. According to the Journal of Pediatric Nursing, families of chronically ill or disabled children often live in a state of amplified anxiety and emotional exhaustion. Stress increases as parents focus their attention on the ill child, spending less time on their relationship. Therefore, psychologist John Peterson of South Bend, Indiana, wrote that those parents are at a higher risk of divorce. And when those divorces happen, it's almost always the father who leaves the family home while the mother stays. It takes a great man to stay in the tough times and make the additional sacrifices required. This father did, and he serves as a role model for us. Dads, we are vital to our families, especially when there are greater needs. So be a great father. Step up, rise to the occasion, and help fix the problem. That's what men do. We are fixers. Stay through the tough times. A great father supports his child by identifying with that child in their need. We saw that in verse 22 of our story, didn't we? When the man called out to Jesus, "Take pity on us and help us." It was his son who was the one who had the great need, but he identified with his son's need. He felt such compassion that he took his child's pain as his own. And you've done that, dads, haven't you? You've hurt for your children in their pain. I spoke with a preacher friend this past Wednesday whose young son suffered with an unknown infection that settled in his hips, making him unable to walk for over a week. The infection was eventually treated successfully, but during that time, there was anxiety and a certain amount of fear. We discussed how when our children are sick, we feel such empathy for them that we wish we could take that illness as our own and suffer in their place. It is heart-wrenching for us to watch our children suffer. The father in Mark chapter 9 felt like that. He identified so much with his son in his suffering that he pleaded, "Take pity on us. Help us." Our compassion as fathers drives us to action. Men are action-focused beings. And we want to help. We want to do something. And so we seek to find out what we can do. Maybe you saw the CBS News report this past Friday about a father and son Ironman triathlon team from Rockford, Michigan. Their names are Jeff and Johnny Agar. It was fitting that the video was shown on Father's Day weekend because it is a tribute to the sacrifice a great father is willing to make for his son. Let's watch a clip.
Father and son triathletes. 29-year-old Johnny was born with cerebral palsy.
Johnny, there you go, that a boy.
It is a muscle disorder that makes it impossible for him to walk without assistance.
Look at you. There you go.
But with the help of his hero, Johnny has paved his way in the most unlikely of sports. It's one that Jeff takes on for both of them.
I believe I can fly.
When he bikes, he hauls him. When he swims, he pulls Johnny. And when he runs, he pushes him.
Mom's cooking when we get home.
Jeff told us back in November, for his son, it's all worth it.
I mean, I'm not a fan of swimming, biking, or running, so which is perfect for triathlon. So this probably wouldn't be in the top 100 things I would select to do. I'm not doing it because I love it. It wasn't like a dream of mine. This is Johnny's dream. I'm just giving him the legs and the power to do it.
It has become Johnny's passion, and that has led him and his father to Ironman races. Those are the toughest of endurance events.
All right, so make some noise for our
Team Agar has a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike, and a 26.2-mile run, and they have to finish it all in under 17 hours.
Let's go, Dad, let's go.
Well, why even try it, you may be wondering? To prove what Iron Man's mantra is. Anything is possible.
Work out there.
Now look, they failed the first 5 times they tried to finish an Ironman in the time allowed. But on the 6th attempt, they did it. And look who crossed that finish line. That victory last September inspired Johnny's dream to one day cross the finish line at what is considered to be the Super Bowl of triathlons, the Ironman World Championship in Kona, Hawaii. Now, teams like the Agars need to be invited to compete. And guess what? Ironman wants to extend that offer for a team they say personifies the spirit of the sport. And they decided to let us break the news. So we planned a trip back to Michigan, but we told him it was for a Father's Day surprise.
So in the time since we first met to date, have you had any new epiphanies, any new aha moments? You know, maybe a question I asked that you, long after I were gone, were like, here's one I thought, anything.
The feedback on social media is a bit overwhelming. I find the things that hit me the hardest is that people will comment that, you know, I don't do anything with my kids. And here's this guy doing this, and I should be able to do so much more. Well, I hope that just inspires fathers to believe you can do more. You don't have to be a great father. You just have to do better than you are today.
Just to see how Dad wants to succeed and wants to put in the work to be able to get me across the finish line really inspires me.
Okay. Now, in the spirit of our Father's Day theme, I asked the Agars to record a message for all the dads out there.
Hello, America. We're the Agar family. I'm Jeff.
I'm Johnny.
Becky, Annie, and I'm Gracie.
And we want to wish all fathers a happy Father's Day.
That was so good! You guys, they nailed it on one. Okay, do you feel good about that?
Yeah.
Can we watch it back, by the way? Ready?
For this moment, we got a little help from a Hall of Fame quarterback who happens to be one of Johnny's favorite athletes.
Hey, Agar family, Peyton Manning here. Listen, rumor has it you're a big fan of mine. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. But I'm a big fan of yours as well. You guys are incredible. You're a true inspiration. Now, I've heard there's a big dream that you're hoping to achieve together. Well, why don't we make that dream come true right now? On behalf of Ironman, it is my honor to share with you that Team Agar has earned an official invite to the 2024 Ironman World Championship in Kona, Hawaii. Congratulations, good luck, and I'll be rooting for you the whole way.
You guys are
Oh my gosh. It is toasty warm out today.
Starting now, Team Agar has 16 months to beef up their training for the World Championship. And Ironman sent us their official ticket to Kona.
There we go, Johnny. When I hopefully walk across that finish line, I'm going to put every ounce of energy that I have. It's going to be really special for me.
Mm-hmm. Good job, man.
Thank you so much.
Johnny and Jeff, they have what no other triathlete in this sport has when they compete.
Knees up, head high, buddy.
Each other.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too, bud.
They have what no other triathlete does. Each other. What a tribute to fatherhood. A great father supports his child. And a great father is faithful to his family. He is always there. He just keeps showing up. He is there with his children and for his children. He is dependable every day, for every need. He just shows up. God bless you, dads, for showing up. You show up for work each day to a job you don't love in order to support your family. You show up at home every night instead of hanging out at the bar. You show up on the couch each evening to read books to your toddler. You show up at your child's bedside each night to teach them to pray. You show up at church every Sunday to teach them to put God first. You show up with a hug when your daughter's heart gets broken. You showed up with encouraging words when your son was cut from the basketball team. You showed up for your daughter's volleyball games even though she only played a few minutes each time. You showed up with words of wisdom and comfort when your son had his first fender bender. You showed up to preach the funeral when your children's dog died. When the family mood was sour, you showed up with a joke. And since it was a dad joke, it was hilarious. When the toilet kept running, you showed up with your toolbox. And then 2 hours later, you called the plumber and he showed up. When your children needed the birds and bees talk, you showed up and nodded in agreement as your wife explained it all. When your son needed driving lessons, you showed up and screamed like a little girl as he took a curve too fast. But you just kept showing up. If you are a father, would you please stand for just a moment? Just stand right where you are. These are the real heroes of our world. Their actions may not be heralded with great fanfare, but the trumpets in heaven are blowing for these men, for they have answered the call to be a dad, which is so much more than just fathering a child. Let's give them the applause that they deserve. Thank you, gentlemen. One of God's greatest qualities is showing up. He shows up in our sorrow with comfort. He shows up in our weakness with strength. He shows up in our brokenness with healing. He shows up in our disappointment with promises. He shows up in our doubt with assurance. He shows up in our confusion with guidance. He shows up in our loneliness with his presence. He shows up in our despair with hope. He shows up in our failure with grace. And he shows up in our guilt with salvation. He is a God who is always there for us. And when you show up, dads, and are there for your children, you are reflecting that image of God that has been placed within you. A great father is faithful. He is faithful to his family. He is faithful in taking his children to Jesus. Isn't that the crux of this story? Among the first words that introduce this story in Mark chapter 9 is this father's proclamation that we read in verse 17. Teacher, I brought you my son. Dads, may you be able to say that on Judgment Day. Take them to the ball field. Take them to the beach. Take them to the golf course. Those bonding times are valuable. But don't neglect to take them to Jesus. He is the only one who can save them. I took my son to your disciples, the man said, but they couldn't help him. No. Nothing will help your children like Jesus can. Only one place we take our children will really matter. So take them to Jesus. Teach them that he is the one who will always be there. For there will come a time when you no longer can be. God bless you, dads. for being a great father. Keep showing up.